How many are glad that's the last time we get to see that? We're already stressed out and we haven't begun yet, right? Well, welcome to the conclusion of Breathing Room. So glad you're here. So excited for the message today. And as I get into things today, I realize today has either the potential to be the most inspiring, uplifting, perspective sermon giving you've ever heard, or it has the perspective and it could be the most depressing, low viewpoint you've ever heard in a sermon. And you can tell me which one later because, well, today we're going to look at life. And we're going to ask and we're going to propose what is the meaning of life. And we're going to check out a certain few paths. And so we're going to talk about the meaning of life. And to do this, to get our minds going on the meaning of life, I know something that has a lot of meaning is going on today. Maybe you know it's this, right? And I thought it'd be fun just to see how our dynamic works at Amazing Love between Packers and Bears fans. So if you are a Packers fan, I invite you, this is your opportunity to say, "Go Pack, go" on my count. Are you ready? Here we go. If you're a Packers fan, go Pack, go! That's pretty good. All right. Okay. Bears fans, again, I'll let you go last. This is your home turf, hometown. And so you already know what you're going to say. You're going to say, "Bear down," right? Low voice, real good. Are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Wow, I think if there was a fight going on, I know who'd win. But anyway, God has called us to a spirit of unity and to keep a bond of peace. So just so you know, But I love football, right? And I'm going to watch the game. I love American football. I'm a true American. Don't really like soccer that much, but American football is great. But with that, and we're going to enjoy watching the game, I also recognize the potential of what can happen today. That based on the result of this game, the potential for us to either be really high and excited or really low and depressed. To be really high and excited based on who wins, or really low and depressed. And sometimes, and you don't have to raise your hand here, but maybe you'd admit with me that sometimes in sports we can take it too far. Is that true? Fair enough to say? Right? Okay. And I even recognize this as a kid. I remember going to high school sports, and I was in grade school. My brother was really good at basketball, and there I remember adults, grown adults, who I was called to respect, who were my authority, who were my example, grown adults saying things to referees that I couldn't say, and I couldn't find a Bible passage for it. Grown adults who would pick on other kids, kid you not, would pick on the kids of the other team, even though they are grown, and were, saying things, and I'm like, whew. I'm pretty sure the ball's just going in the hoop, dude, lady. What's the big deal? But here's the thing, guys. We have this proclivity to make way too much out of way too little. Don't we? We can make way too much out of way too little. We even have a phrase for this. We can make a mountain out of a... Exactly. I was curious what a molehill looks like. Google Images, thank you very much. So we can take that and we can make that, right? That. Right, and we do it all the time, and so I'm going to stop picking on sports people for a while, because this can happen with a haircut, right? You can have a haircut go so wrong that you want to dig a hole in the ground, hide in it for a while, so that no one will see this haircut that has ruined your life, right? And no one's going to like you, and everyone's going to hate you because of your hair. And let me tell you, my friends, hair grows back. If there's one thing in life I know, I'm a human experiment of that. Hair will grow back. It's all right. We live in the same world where we step on a scale and the scale's off by 2 pounds and our day is already ruined. Right? Our day is already ruined because of what a scale said to us. Man, shouldn't even go through. We can wear a new outfit, right? New shirt, new shoes, new whatever, and if no one says anything, it must mean they hate me. I really have no more friends because no one noticed my new boots. You know what I'm talking about. Guys do it differently. Guys, it's about winning competition, and so you can be playing a video game and lose a friend. You can. You can be playing a card game, lose a friend. You can have an argument, lose a friend because you made way too much out of something that mattered way too little. And if that can happen in the daily life, do you think it can happen in the big picture? That's why I'm so excited to get into what we're talking about today. So excited. Ecclesiastes is probably one of my favorite books of the Bible, if not the favorite. And here we have Solomon look at the big picture of life. And let's just look a little bit about Solomon. Solomon was given one wish from God. Wouldn't you love to have a wish from God? Like, yes, Porsche 911 and a track. That would be great. and some for my friends so we can raise. But that's not what Solomon said. Solomon had that one wish from God, and he said, would you give me wisdom? Wisdom. And God was so pleased that he not only got wisdom, he got riches, he got power besides. God was so pleased with that. And so he's got true wisdom on the matter. Now Solomon lived at such a life that some compare him to a combination of people. Some say that Solomon would be like if we compared and combined Albert Einstein, Bill Gates, and Hugh Hefner. That's Solomon. Albert Einstein because of wisdom, Bill Gates because of wealth, Hugh Hefner, we won't go into detail, but the dude had 1,000 women in his life. Kid you not. 700 wives, 300 concubines. He wasn't emotionally filling up those women. It's not possible. But anyway, so he had all of that going on in his life. He was Albert Einstein, Bill Gates, and Hugh Hefner. And I love his standpoint because then what he has is he has life experience to the degree that we will never know, to the degree that we've tried to race down and chase down some things, and Solomon sat at the end of that, and then he says, this is what was at the end, right? And so he's going to give his life experience to us today. He's going to give true wisdom, and finally we know this is God speaking through Solomon to us. So let's get into it, about the meaning of life, from Ecclesiastes, from Solomon. Says, the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Meaningless. Meaningless. When translating, this was like, if there is the center of meaningless, that's what I'm talking about. There's meaningless all around, but we're at the center of it. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. And what is utterly meaningless? Everything. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north, and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, and yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already. Long ago, it was before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. Subtitle, Wisdom is Meaningless. I, the teacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. I applied my mind to the study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened, and what is lacking cannot be counted. Are you depressed yet? Because we're going to take it further. We're going to mine the depths here, and we're going to have some fun today. But hopefully we're just going to look at what's the meaning of life. And so the game plan is we're going to travel down some paths together. We're going to travel down some paths, searching for its meaning, guided by Solomon, to hopefully come to our aha moments. And excited to go with you. So let's go on the journey. Let's travel and search for the meaning of life. And the first meaning we want to explore is the meaning of life, our work or labor. Is the meaning of life found in our work or labor? To talk about this, I want to talk about a company that I really enjoy is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, any Chick-fil-A fans? And if you're a Christian, it's not like an obligation to be a Chick-fil-A fan. So it's not like legalism there. It's just, I know they're a Christian organization, but you can like other things. McDonald's, fine. Anyway, but Chick-fil-A, and they just came out with something, new advertising, had this, and maybe you've seen it. New grilled chicken nuggets. New grilled chicken nuggets, right? And so there, again, they're bite-sized morsels of chicken. But I look at this advertising, and yes, most people do have the fried nuggets, but is tiny morsels of chicken that are grilled really new? I mean, if you're a parent and if you've ever cut up a chicken breast for your child, you've had tiny morsels that are bite-sized, that may be grilled, right? And so the audacity to call something like tiny bite sizes of chicken new is pretty extreme. I'm not sure if that's marketing genius or the other. Not sure. New. They're the same company that says we didn't invent the chicken, but maybe the chicken sandwich, to which I could maybe argue with that as well. Well, if you're looking at Chick-fil-A, Solomon's actually going to call them to the carpet about their idea of new grilled chicken nuggets. So they're going to have this test. And Solomon calls them to the carpet with verse 10. Ready for verse 10? Here we go, Chick-fil-A right in the eye. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? Not when it comes to bite-sized pieces of chicken. It was here already long ago. Before Chick-fil-A was founded in 1946, people were eating bite-sized pieces of meat. It's not new. But then he goes on and he explains why people can get away with calling something new. Things that were old and why they can get called new. And he goes on in verse 11 to say why this exists, and we're all duped by something that we think was new. No one remembers the former generations. That's why. It's because when we were in history class, we were all sleeping. We're all sleeping during history class. Just be honest. It was boring, and so we clocked out, and so we don't remember everything that has been done. We don't remember everyone who's ever lived, and all the rich people, and all the people who came before us. We don't remember. Don't remember what has been done, and so we look at things that we think are new, but they're not new. They're not new. Let's just break it down in another realm. You know, we go to work to make advancements, and you know, we're in an age where iPhone 6, and as if there wasn't a Palm Pilot before, and all these things that were happening, and let's just take a look at like communication, right? You know, and the essence of communication has always been going on. People have been getting valuable information from this place to this place before we ever came to be, right? Would you agree with that? But we come upon email, and I remember growing up with email, and AOL says, you've got mail, and it's like, holy cow, my world is rocked. Life will never be the same. This is amazing. We finally solved all the world's problems. I mean, we don't have to wait for letters. We're going to make the more efficient workplace, right, through email. We have finally made it better, right? And now we've dealt with email for a while, and has it made it better or more efficient? Not sure it has, my friends. Communication has been going on. People have been saying letters, smoke signals, Morse code, walkie-talkies. Doesn't matter. It's not the only thing new. Or now, let's make it more current. We're texting. And I think historians are going to look back at texting and just laugh, especially with our dumb phones. Let me get this straight, guys. So you press 3 buttons for 1 letter. Yeah, that's efficient, right? Or you had a text conversation that lasted a half an hour where you could have picked up the phone and had 5 minutes, right? Or you're texting all day to solve something that you could have driven over to their house and had it all out, but no, you're texting all day back and forth, and this is going to be the novel way of communicating. Guess what? We figured it all out, guys. We got the better way of doing things today, texting, email. Got to figure it out. All right. Solomon says, not new. Not new. What are you really doing? What are you really advancing? So we go to work, and we're focusing on advancements and solving all the world's problems. And we're the generation that rises up and says, hey guys, don't worry about what happened before, because we're going to solve it. Everything you left out, we're gonna fix. And then we get off, and another generation says, okay, you guys didn't solve it. Don't worry, we got it. We'll solve it. One of the best analogies that was given as I was studying for the sermon was that of a stationary bike. One generation gets on a stationary bike, and the solution to get it moving is to pedal harder. So they pedal, wondering why it's not going anywhere. Until they finally don't have any strength left, they die and get off the bike, and the next generation gets on the same bike, and they say, I got it, I know, we're going to pedal harder. But guess what? The stationary bike is still stationary. And so Solomon looks at work. In verse 3 says, what do people gain from their labors at which they toil under the sun? And it's like the bills come and we pay them, but then there's another bill and more bills. And I did the dish, but then the dish monster came and there's another dish. And I did the laundry. The laundry monster came and there's more laundry. Round and round and round, and the stationary bike just keeps spinning. And so Solomon says, is work it? He would say it's a chasing after the wind, my friends. A chasing after the wind. So what about stuff then? Stuff. He says, well, what do people gain from their toil under the sun? Verse 3, what do people gain? And the rhetorical answer is nothing. They gain nothing. In fact, later he would say, naked you come into this world and you're going to leave that way. Naked. And all the stuff you've accumulated will either be sold at a garage sale, will be used by someone else, or thrown away. That's stuff. But I got a solution, guys. I'm saying in jest. But Solomon's going to run down another path. Are you ready for another path? So work, we've kind of ran down that path. Let's run down the path of pleasure. And we're good at this because we're in the pursuit of happiness, right? So let's run down the pursuit of pleasure. Let's do that today. Well, verse 8, let's get into verse 8. What does verse 8 say? It says, all things are wearisome, more than the eye one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. To talk about this, I want to talk about 3-day weekends. Raise your hand if you love a 3-day weekend. Oh, it's just like glorious breathing room in a 3-day weekend, right? It's just awesome. And maybe you've had this experience where you go into a 3-day weekend and you got it all planned out. Like, you know where you're going to eat, you know what movie you're going to see, you know what you're going to do, you know who you're going to associate with. And have you ever had this experience where you do it all? Like, everything went according to plan, and it was fantastic. It was awesome. Life was good, right? Until Tuesday comes. And Tuesday, you start feeling, man, I wish the 3-day weekend was a 4-day weekend, right? Why don't we just take the whole week off? I mean, it's already Tuesday, right? Come on. And maybe you started at a place on Friday, and you're actually in a worse place Tuesday because of all the strength that you omitted in getting this 3-day weekend going, and maybe a worse place financially and worse place emotionally, depending on what happened. And it's like at the 3-day weekend, I thought I was going to do something, and now I'm worse than when I began. And what's up with this? And we operate by a lie. Here's the lie. The lie is, if I satisfy this desire, I will be satisfied. But we can't get no satisfaction. No, no, no. Hey, hey, hey. Because what happens is, as Solomon said, the eye, guess what, will always want more. And the ear, guess what, will always want more. And the stomach, guess what, will always want more. And the mind, guess what, will always want more. And the body, guess what, will always want more. And we'll want more and more and more. And so we think we're going to be satisfied, but you know what happens instead? We increase our appetite. We increase our appetite. And we know this with food. We go into food and we say, if I just eat enough and I get used to this and eat more, and then I'll finally be satisfied. But you can get to a point where you're eating so much that you haven't been satisfied. You're just increasing in appetite. So your body learns to expect more. That can happen with spending money. If I buy this thing, I'll be good to go, right? I'll be satisfied. But guess what? You just want to buy something else. If I go on this trip, it'll solve me. I won't want to go on any other trips. I've been to Rome, and that'll be Rome. And then I throw a coin into the Trevi Fountain that says, if I do that, I'm going to come back. And now I do want to go back. I've been to Rome, but it just means I want to go back, baby. Right? I've had the 3-day weekend, but now I want the 6-day weekend. Right? And Solomon says that's what can happen with pleasure, guys. You can use all your money running down that road, and you won't satisfy. You'll just increase in appetite. That's all. So if pleasure is it, guess what? There's no pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Okay, well, let's move on to more heady issues then. Pleasure, work, okay. What about legacy? Making my name stick. I heard a pop song that says, my name's going to live on for centuries or something like that and all that. And what about that? And I always start with this premise. Do you know who your great-great-grandfather or grandmother was? Do you know your great-great-grandfather or mother? A poll. How many knows great-great-grandfather or mother? A few. I know a great-grandfather. But 5 generations for me, and it's pretty much done. 5 generations for me without help of Ancestry.com, it's pretty much done. I recently came across a relative of mine named Fred Bloomer. Fred Bloomer was actually kidnapped by Al Capone. Kind of cool Bloomer history. So the Bloomers owned a brewery, and in Monroe, Wisconsin, you can still visit the brewery. And during the time of Prohibition, Fred Bloomer was getting into the market of alcohol in the Chicago area, and Al Capone was none too happy about it. So Al Capone actually kidnapped Fred Bloomer, who later released him because he was under heat by the police and things like that. But that was actually the story, so kind of the gangster background. And so now Bloomers returned from gangsters to priests or pastors, and that's been our story, right? But I recognize that if that brewery, and they worked up this story to sell Bloomer moonshine, you can go buy it, everything in moderation, by the way. If they weren't trying to sell moonshine, I wouldn't know the story about the kidnapping of Fred Bloomer. It would have been like this. But because someone's trying to make a buck, I now know something more about my family history. What about you? You might know a few people, but how far does it really go? How much of a legacy can we truly leave? Even the presidents of our country, do you know them all? If we went in order? I'd fail that one. So I don't think legacy is it. Chasing after the wind, we're at the end of a rainbow that has no pot of gold. But maybe the biggest one is a cause. If I just get behind a cause, maybe that's the meaning. And my life will have purpose. I just need to find a good cause. And here, there's some good things. In fact, I saw a new cause coming out. Maybe you saw this on TV as well, called No More. No More. And first of all, this is a great cause. No More is about ending domestic violence. About ending domestic violence. And so Ray Rice was in the news for domestic violence. Brandon Marshall got back into the news for this. And what a great thing to say no more to. In fact, let me tell you, God wants no more domestic violence. He does. The church wants no more domestic violence. In fact, God set up marriage to outserve one another. The goal of marriage in any family is that we're so committed in love, I'm going to outserve you today, and domestic violence has no part of that. And so I am against domestic violence. But I would say it doesn't stop there. I'm against all sorts of sins. See, I'm against addictions. I'm against greed. I'm against the objectification of women. I'm against child slavery or sex trafficking. I mean, you can run the whole gamut, and I'm against them because God is. And I look at this campaign, and I don't mean to be a downer, but will there really be no more? What does verse 15 say? Verse 15 says, what is crooked cannot be straightened. Do you know that people were mean, unloving, and cruel before we got here? It's been happening. And people will be mean, cruel, unloving when we're gone. And now we look at the state of things, and we're frustrated. So all those options and nothing. We got to take it back to the beginning. You see, there was a garden where everything worked, and there was no futility, and there was only harmony, because creatures were in harmony with the Creator. But a man named Adam and a woman named Eve severed that connection by disobedience, and we now live under the state of mess. All of creation, including its creatures, are subject to frustration because of an act of disobedience, because we severed a tie to a holy and perfect God, and there's really not much that we can do about it. And the key of understanding all of this is Solomon's phrase, under the sun. Verse 3, look at it. It says, what do people gain from their labors which they toil under the sun? That is the key of understanding all of this. And what this means, dear friends, is a life perspective without God. If God is not here, if God's not in our midst, everything we look at is futile, meaningless, a chasing after the wind. And this is why I love this section so much. Because isn't it true, maybe, just maybe, we've taken ourselves too seriously. Maybe, just maybe, we all struggle with the sin of pride. Of saying, yeah, that might have been your story, but it's not mine. Let me tell you about our generation and my impact and what I'm going to do and make it about me. Solomon says, chasing after the wind. And so what's the answer? This is where the upper I hope comes, and I just want to sit here. The answer means that those who are subject to frustration under the sun need something from above the sun. They need God to come in and see the mess and say, you couldn't fix it, and the next generation isn't the answer, but I can. And God so loved the world that he sent into a broken mess his one and only Son, and his name is Jesus. And I am hoping that Jesus just sounds like a cool drink of water after being in the desert, after running down all those paths. I am hoping that today, after seeing the futility of everything else, Jesus makes sense to you today, because Jesus is the one who could get on a stationary bike and make wheels happen and get it to move. Jesus is the one who sees a problem and has an answer. Jesus is the one who sees futility and adds meaning. Jesus is the one who sees hopelessness and gives hope in any and all situation, because he did something with sin and brokenness, my friends. Even though the world was cursed, he became a curse for us. And he gave his life. And so in 2 Peter, we read this beautiful passage that says, he himself bore our sins in his body on a cross. And the cross is beautiful because it means my life has meaning. And even though I made it too much about me, there is one who made it all about me, so much so he gave his life and said, you know what, I do love you that much. And I'm here to rescue you from sin's curse. And he reversed it. And where there was death, there is now life. Where there was brokenness, there is now completeness. Where there was futility, there is now meaning because of Jesus. Solomon got to the end of this book after his ranting and raving about everything being meaningless, and then he finally had to conclude, fear God then and keep his commandments, for this is the duty. It is God, my friends. It is what comes above the sun, my friends. The God has secured a place for you, which isn't here. See, you're not of the world any more than he was of the world. We're just in it right now. He has secured your place in eternity with him as a child of God. But he's not just secured your place. He secured your purpose. He said, I have come that you might have life and have it to the full. Have it to the full. And so this is what I find. That without God, everything is meaningless. But if we make Jesus everything, everything then has meaning. Do you get that? You make Jesus everything, and everything we do now has meaning. Jesus like bacon. He's like bacon. You see the new stuffed crust pizza? Love Pizza Hut. Jesus like bacon. Everything is better with bacon, and that's true with stuffed crust pizza. Thank you, Blake Shelton, I think. Right? Everything's better. Steak is better with bacon. Eggs are better than bacon. Stuffed crust pizza is better than bacon. Donuts are better than bacon. So we just need to infuse bacon into everything, and life will be good. We do that. Salads, bacon bits. We're good. Everything's better with bacon. I'm here to tell you, do the same thing you do with bacon with Jesus. Everything is better with Jesus. And so guess what? Your job can have meaning. Because you're not working for your glory or your kingdom. You're working to honor Jesus. And you're living for him by providing for your family and doing a good work. Your pleasure has meaning. Because it's evidence that a holy God so loves his children that he wants to shower grace upon grace, and he loves it when you're enjoying something. He loves to see his children happy and saying, yes, I am a good God, aren't I? Yes, I do give gracious things, don't I? Because he's behind them, my friends. He knows what you like. He gave it to you. Infuse him into our legacy. You want a legacy that will last past Jesus down the line. That's why I'm here, because gangsters went to pastors. That's right. You want a cause? I'm for causes. But maybe we see the world as it is, that Jesus can be behind our cause. We're going to show love to others because Jesus has so loved us. Let's get behind causes fueled by Christ's love, and then maybe connecting them to Jesus, we can have true meaning to what's going on. Have we reached the point where we can be in the world and not of the world? When you step on that scale and it says 2 more pounds, we can say to the scale, guess what? I'm still a child of God, whatevs. Pizza Hut couldn't change that. Bacon couldn't change that. When my team wins or loses, that's awesome, but doesn't really matter because I already know the victory that's mine. You can't get me so down because God has raised me up. I heard of the victory today. We can live in the world and not of the world. May God so help us. Let me pray for you this morning. Heavenly Father, thank you for calling me your child. Help me to make you everything, and then find meaning even in the small things when you are there. Forgive me for getting it wrong, for living for me and for losing sight. Bring clarity, hope, and purpose to my life, all in the name of Jesus. Amen.